I'm Toby Hunter, and this is my 15.2 psychological and physiological responses to injury. Okay, so we'll start with physiological. I'm going to be explaining the physiological side of response to injury, so that's strains, sprains, hematomas, and then also the psychological responses, so how athletes will deal with injury mentally, as well as applying this to 2 case studies. So in terms of physiological, first thing is strains. So this is damage done to tendons or the muscle itself. Grade 1 strain will be under 10% damage done to the muscle, and it's just described as a pull. It's just a minor injury. You might get a little bit of inflammation, but you will be able to carry on, have full range of movement, lots of stability there. A grade 2 is getting into 10 to 15% damage done. So it's described as a tear. This will take a lot longer to recover from. There'll be more damage done to the muscle, more inflammation, more pain, much less stability. You probably won't be able to carry on doing your sporting activity if a tear occurred to your tendon or muscle. And then finally grade 3, so rupture. This is a much higher, 50 to 100% damage done to the muscle. So this is either where the tendon completely detaches from the bone, or no, the muscle, or there's a huge chunk taken out of the muscle. So this is very high pain, lots of inflammation, could take up to 2 years recovery. You have no movement in the area, lots of pain, lots of inflammation, and it's the worst kind of strain. Moving on is sprains. So this is more joints, bones. So grade 1 is an overstretch. Again, less than 10% damage done to the joint. Slight discomfort, maybe a little bit of inflammation. Again, we'll be able to carry on, much like strains, be able to carry on with our activity. Just might be a little bit of niggle to watch out for. Grade 2, tear. Again, same words you used to describe. 10 to 15% damage done. More inflammation, more pain, won't be able to carry on in your activity. Slight mobility at the joint, not a lot of range of mobility. That's why it will take longer to recover, longer to get that full range back. And finally, grade 3 rupture. Again, 50 to 100% damage done. Completely immobile, like you will not be able to use the bone or the joint. It will be completely immobile, lots of pain, lots of inflammation. Again, could take up to 2 years recovery. Very painful for the athlete, and again, the worst kind of sprain, just like strains. Hematomas. So this is when a blood vessel leaks blood. There are 2 types of hematomas, so it's intermuscular and intramuscular. Intermuscular is where the blood will actually leave the blood vessel and move into surrounding tissues. So this is, some would say, the worst kind of hematoma, whereas intramuscular stays within the blood vessel that the hematoma occurred in. So the blood stays within that blood vessel. This can be a result of, say, in football, getting kneed in the back of the leg, getting hit by a cricket ball. It's a specific pinpoint impact in a specific place which will cause a hematoma. The blood clotting mechanism. So this is how, when a hematoma occurs, this is how the body will respond to that and how it will deal with that. So first of all, platelets, which are just free stuff in the blood. They will come along in the blood vessel and they will plug the hematoma, the gap, the tear, just temporarily. They're a bit sticky, but they're not very secure. They can get washed away in the blood, so they're not very secure. The second stage is clotting factors. So these are just other factors that will come in and they'll fill the gaps. They'll make the plug more secure, ready for the fibrin. Fibrin, which is the third stage, that will come along and act like a spider web. It will completely secure all the platelets and the clotting factors in place, tie them all together, make sure they're not moving anywhere. And finally, other factors such as blood cells, red blood cells, will come into that fibrin and fill any tiny little gaps that are still there, maybe haven't been plugged, and that creates a secure barrier acting as a cell wall or vessel wall until the vessel has completely healed itself, like a scab. Once it's healed itself, the plug will just get washed away. The stages of healing. This is a graph that is slightly inaccurate. Normally on the x-axis, no, the y-axis, no, x-axis will be pain rating, pain rating, and inflammation will be a lot higher than proliferation or repair, and then remodeling will be even lower than repair. But it's sort of just the stages. So inflammation is the first stage. Once being injured with a strain or sprain or hematoma, the area will swell up and it will be quite painful for up to 4 to 6 days. This is just the initial response to the injury. So maybe if it's a hematoma, the clotting factors, it's just sort of swelling up, getting blood to the area. Proliferation or repair is the next stage, so that could take up to 24 days, even a month. This is the repairing of the area, so the rebuilding of the muscle tissue, the restabilization of the joint. So at the end of this, should have full mobility, full repair of the injured area. So will be able, it's almost how it was before the injury happened, which is where the remodeling stage comes in. This is trying to get the joint or the muscle to look the way it did before. Obviously it's never going to look exactly the same, you can't do that, but it's trying to shape the muscle, shape the joint or the bone back to the way it looked before, so then you have full stability, full movement, full comfort in that joint, in that muscle again. So now we move on to psychological effects or psychological responses. So there's the 5 stages of grief. There's denial, so denying the things that's happened. So say you get tackled in football and you've clearly got an injury, you've gone down, but in your head you're thinking, I can carry on, I want to carry on. Maybe it's a big game, you just want to carry on. It's denial. Anger is the second stage, so maybe having it sink in that maybe you are injured, and having that anger, maybe it's 3 weeks before a big competition and you're angry at yourself, you're angry at your teammates, maybe you're angry at just whoever's around you because you've got injured and you now can't play. Bargaining is the next step, next stage. So maybe trying to bargain with your coach, try and get your coach to still play, try and convince him that your injury's not as bad as it actually is, maybe playing it cool, playing it like you're not actually injured, trying to get the game even though you know you're injured. Depression, probably coming after bargaining, your coach is not playing you, you're not with your team anymore, your anger's sort of leaving a little bit, starting to be coming into depression because you realise that you're injured, you're not going to be playing, the coach is not playing, you're not with your team, you're feeling isolated, and leads to depression. And finally, acceptance. So when you finally accepted your injury, you're on your way to recovery. Maybe you've looked back at your progress, you're thinking, okay, I have come quite far, maybe not too much longer to go, maybe getting back involved with the team, maybe just coaching, doing your repairing stages or your repairing exercises with your team. You've accepted your injury and you're just trying to get back on the road to recovery. And you'll see later on in the case studies that they don't always follow this order, and you don't always see every single one for every single injury. It could go from denial to depression, back to anger, up to acceptance, back to denial, to acceptance again. It doesn't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and that's it. It can interchange. These are the 9 emotional states. So they're sort of all interlinked to each other. So it's not like it's like a flowing cycle. So you've got anger, again explained in the previous slide. Depression again, explained in the previous slide. Fear, you might be scared of what the future lies. You may never be able to play again if it's a grade 3. Anxiety, what if I'm not as good as I was when I come back? What if they found someone to replace me? Frustration is sort of like anger. Frustrated that you're injured, frustrated that you're not playing, frustrated that your coach isn't believing you when you're telling him it's not as bad as it is. Denial, again explained in the previous slide. Isolation sort of links quite heavily to depression. When you're injured, you're obviously not going to be training, you're not going to be playing with your teammates, so you might feel a bit isolated from the group. Maybe when you do return, you feel a bit isolated. During the stages of recovery, feel a bit isolated. Lack of motivation links to frustration, depression. If you're not feeling good, you're just depressed that you're not playing, you're not spending time with your teammates. You might not want to ever get back. Leads to a lack of confidence when you come back. You're not going to be as confident in the joint if you've just smashed up your joint or you've torn your tendon completely. Even when you've been out for 2 years and you know that the recovery is complete, you're not going to be very confident when you come back. 4 responses and how they will help or hinder treatment. So anxiety and stress, it's obviously mainly linked with hindering. So stress and anxiety, you're not going to, maybe it links to motivation, you're not going to be as motivated if you're anxious or you're stressed that you're injured. Get angry, you're less likely you're gonna lose sleep if you're stressed, you're anxious. You're less likely to, well, you're possibly less likely to follow the recovery regime, because you're stressed, you don't want to do it, you feel like you've got too much on. But it could help. The main point is that it fuels ambition. Anxiety, some people when they're anxious, they strive to get rid of that anxiety, so you might look for extra help, or you might stick to the regime that you've been given because you trust it. There's a lot to think about. Frustration will show your commitment, which is something that helps. If you're moaning at your coach that you're injured and you hate it and you want to come back, you're frustrated, it shows to him that you are committed and that he probably will keep that in mind when you do come back from recovery. But hindering, frustration gets too high, maybe you're stressed and you're frustrated, you might give up the sport completely, you might wander from the regime you've been given and it takes longer to recover. Motivation, if you're really motivated, get extra help. You'll be really up for recovery, you'll be really up for getting back. So you'll be getting extra help, you'll be following the regime you've been given, you'll be more happy if you're motivated, you'll be quicker to get to that acceptance stage. However, too motivated and you might come back too early, you might be really up for getting back and thinking, yeah, I'm ready, and then you come back too early, maybe do it again because it's not fully repaired, recovered, and then you're out for a longer period of time. And then goal setting, this can really help your recovery, because you can set yourself little goals and then you can look back and I've achieved this, and it links to motivation, gets your motivation very high if you're seeing that you're achieving all of these goals. But some people may set unachievable goals, which is when it can hinder your progress. If you're setting unachievable goals, then you're not going to reach these goals, and then that could lead to depression. You're thinking, I'm never going to get back if I can't even reach this goal. I'm never going to get back, and it might lead to frustration and a lack of motivation. You might get stressed because you're not getting these goals. And case studies, which I am going to explain in the next video.